So when you talk about the values, again same way, each CSS declaration you have to define the value for the properties, and the unit what you are going to give that depend on the properties what you are using. And some property value are from predefined list of keywords, that means we already defined there, and which you required you can define also. Others are values such as length. That means when you are going to measure the length, percentage, number, without units, color value, and URL. This also can be defined in the value. Okay. When you talk about the color values, as I mentioned that there are a lot of color codes are there. That means value is nothing, red, green, blue. What is that? Color code. So in CSS, it supports varieties of different ways of describing colors. You can see here, you can define either in RGB. You have seen that just now, if you type the code, it will come like R, G, and B, and then you are going to define in 3 RGB 0, 0, 0. So this is the code for the another way. You can see here example. Example one is the color red. Simple example. If you want to use the hot pink, you can use here. When you want to use a different, like you have to use within 255. So 255 0 0. You can within the 255 you can define anything. Okay. So like this way you have in same way hexadecimal. Already we have learned that in hexadecimal color and the color code which should be hashtag with the combination of characters and letters, numbers you can use. Okay, that should be, hexadecimal, that means 6, maximum 6 should be there. Then if you want RGBA, that means you are allowing to add an alpha, that means for transparency. Okay, so you have to add RGB, same way 3, and how much transparency. You have seen that when you design the image using Photoshop, you'll be having option called transparent. You want to make image transparent. The same way, if you want to make the image as a transparent, that means color should be transparent little bit, then you have to add one more at the end, that is the RGB A. This will allow the background color or image to show to the color. Okay, and HSL, that means it will allow to specify color using hue saturation. When you use this Photoshop and all, then you will get to know what is the hue saturation. That means same way you can define the colors, but we will be having light values, and this will be only available in CSS. This and all you can use in CSS2 also, CSS1 also. But when you are going to use HSL, you cannot use in CSS2 or CSS1. You have to use only CSS3 only. Okay. Then unit of measurement, you know that what are the unit for the measurement? That means length, something relative units, which we have to count. Okay. Then when you want to do that, there is a two ways there. One is called as relative units, one is absolute unit. So what is the relative units? They will be based on the value of something else, such as size of parent element. When we talk about absolute, that means that is absolute, that is not going to change, that is the real world. Okay, unless you are going to define a style sheet for printing, it is recommended to avoid using absolute. Why we are saying that? Because absolute means it is not going to be changed. We are going to be fixed. We are going to take the fixed. Suppose an image. If you define the image as absolute unit, then when the screen size gets changes, obviously the unit, that means the measurement, the length what you are defining for the image, it will not get changed and it will not become responsive. So that's why it said that you have to that avoid using absolute unit. Mostly we should use relative unit only. So you can depend on the parent element. Whenever the parent element gets changes, this also get changes. As we have seen that pixel are perhaps one of the popular exception. You can see that if you define the pixel and the moment you screen reduce and increase, the pixel will be same. It is not going to be changed. Okay. The relative units, what are the relative units? So relative units are like you are going to use px, means pixel. Okay, so in CSS2, this is the relative measurement, and in CSS3, it is absolute 1 by 96 of an inch you can use. So it is relative type, it is CSS2. If you want to use in CSS3, there is something called as EM, emphasis, equal to computed value of font size properties. You can use the EM and you can see that what result you are getting. We have already used the percentage also, that means relative unit, it depend, that means it will varies according to the parent element. The same way you have ex, that means for the relative measure only. Okay, like that means the x height for the element font. Ch you can use, rem use, that means stand for root, r for root, em for emphasis. So that means it which font size for the root element, what will be there, the same way you can see that, unlike em how we have defined here, and you can see that rem. The same way, if you want to use for the height for the viewport, okay, the width and height, then you can use vw and vh, view width, viewport width, and viewport height, and both percentage values will be between 0 to 100 only. That means your browser windows how much you want viewport is most, means what you are seeing on the screen now, the presentation. I want my viewport only should be this much only enabled, I don't want the full. Then in that case you are going to define the viewport, and this is also defined only in CSS. You can see there we have defined here where the CS in CSS3 and where in CSS2 is there. Okay, absolute unit you know very well, that is the fixed inch, right? The entire world, the inch, what is the measurement, that will be the same, centimeter, millimeter, then point scale, okay, picastel, PC, this all are not going to change worldwide, it will be the same. You cannot define 1 inch is equal to 10 feet, 1 inch is equal to 100 feet, you cannot define that. It is the fixed worldwide. So that's why they say that you should avoid using absolute unit. Okay. If you want to use the comment section in CSS, then as you have seen in other programming language, same way you can use the comment section here. You can give the / star mark, comment will go between that, again star mark and forward.